Welcome back to CC with Moxie. I'm E. I'm a homeschooling mama in Northeast Georgia, and I've got 6 kiddos. And I'm often asked, how do you homeschool all the different levels and stay sane? So there are so many ways to skin this cat, mama. So if my suggestions don't work for you, that is okay. I'm sure in the future I'll bring other friends on that might have a different take on it. I've always just taken bits and pieces of information from others that I think will work for us and kind of created my own blend, so to speak. So go ahead and subscribe and like so that you don't miss future Lovecast episodes. But today I'm going to talk about homeschooling multiples. So I've got 3 levels of challenge kids in my house, and I have a 2nd-year essentials kiddo, and then I have my cutie patooties. They're kind of our comic relief on stressful days. I have a 4 and a 5-year-old, and they're both in an obesitarian class for foundations. And so learning how to juggle that mix of kids took a little bit of time. It took a lot of failure to figure out what didn't work for us. My older kids will often say, you tried that and it was awful. And you know that saying, they're kind of your guinea pig a little bit. So I found a mix that works for us in this season, but I will preface all of this by saying every year I have to reevaluate and pray over how to handle different learning levels or different learning styles in my home. And so this is not to say that I will always do it this way, but it has worked well for us in this season. So one of the first things I always say, we mamas go, yay, we have summer break. We can check out. Yes, we can for a period of time, but I've found over the years some wisdom in taking a few weeks during the summer and going ahead and asking your director for your challenge guide a little early. Usually directors give challenge guides by the time you're doing orientation a few weeks before school starts. But I have yet to find a director in our area that if you've already paid all your fees and at least first semester tuition, when I've asked, can I get my guide a little early? No one has ever said no. I get the guide a little early. And for those of you that are unaware, if you've never had a challenge kid, you get a guide that's kind of like a syllabus. And the first third tells you why. Why are we doing Henley Latin? Why are we doing Saxon math, soon to be math maps? Why are we doing XYZ? Then the middle portion is your syllabus. You have a snapshot of each semester right before your syllabus begins. And that kind of shows you when everything is due and when you have papers to write. And then the last third is how. How do I do this at home? If I have a learner that wants more, how can I add more to their plate? If I need to tailor because I have a learner that learns a little differently, how can I tailor for them? Remember, tailoring and scaling doesn't mean just nixing a bunch of assignments. It means tailor it to make it fit you really well. So when you go to a tailor, sometimes you add fabric, sometimes you take fabric in. So it's a way that you can make CC work for all of your learners at home. So the first thing I do is I get that guide a little early and I read it at least once. And then usually I go back to that back section of the how am I going to do it? And I reread it again with a fine-tooth comb. That gives me a really good idea of what's coming down the pike, especially for my oldest for the following year. Usually I know my learners really well. I'm sure you know your learners really well. I am able to pinpoint what probably will be their challenge subjects the following year. So what I try to do is pick 1 or 2 of those and go ahead and get to work on them over the summer. It's my break, yes, but it's also when I have the most bandwidth to do that. I don't have CC classes to direct and all the extracurriculars and all the things. So it's a time where I have the time to do that research and homework. If I need to read some books, I'll read some books. Usually for science, I skim it. I'll look at what's the subject matter. If I can't remember much about that, maybe I'll read a good portion of the module. But I'm not sitting there taking notes or working to the bone, but I'm getting a really good idea of the year prior to my oldest going into that year. One thing I've always done with my oldest is, to the best of my ability, I have sat down and done the bulk of her course load with her. The benefits of that are I know exactly what she's doing. I know what's in every challenge level now, A, B, 1, and 2, soon to be 3. And then when I have subsequent kids coming up to that level, like I also have a challenge B kid and a challenge A kid. So when they come to me with questions, I say with confidence, I've done that before. I can help you right away without having to go research, read the book, and figure it out. I've already done it. So if you try to pace with your oldest, it makes the subsequent years a lot easier. Also, as you start to have more than one challenge kid, your challenge kid that's furthest along is likely to be able to help younger challenge kiddos if they have questions and you're busy with littles. So that's super helpful as well. As far as how our actual school days go, the morning after we meet for community day, I sit down with each of my challenge kid. They do Devo right away, and then they have breakfast. Then we start in on our school day. So when it's time to start our school day, I sit down with them and I look at the assignments for the week in the syllabus section of the guide. And we sit down with their student planner and we plan out their week. At this point, looking at what they have on their plate for the week, how much time we really do have to complete it, etc. At this point, I may do some tailoring for the assignments. I may say, let's add a little bit to that assignment because we have extra time this week. I might say, let's tweak it a little bit to accommodate X, Y, Z. But the first thing I do, I always say, if you are failing to plan, you're planning to fail. So I go ahead and sit down with each of my 3 challenge kiddos and plan out their week, and I send them off. Then I focus on my youngest 3. My littlest, she doesn't do much. She's 4. So we do memory work together, the 3 foundation kiddos, and then I let my little play with things in the room I'm in, and I start to do a little kindergarten work with my kindergartner, while my essentials child is able to do a few things on her own. She is a struggling reader, so there's not a ton she can do all by herself, but she's got about an hour's worth of work she can do, such as spelling, editing assignments, lighter reading. And she can also watch math videos from Nicole, the math lady. Shout out to her. So she accomplishes what she can on her own without mom's help for about an hour while I get through the entire kindergarten day with my kindergartner. Then my 2 littles are playing at this point, and I start to focus on my essentials age kid. I sit down with her, we go through math problems, we go through her essentials day, and my goal is to have her done by lunchtime. Not only is her brain kind of fried after lunch and she has hard time retaining things afterwards, but I need to move on to other kids also. We also in the morning talk about what they're going to be presenting on for the following week at CC. The littles are still doing kind of show and tell, but my essentials age kid is taking something they've read for school during the week or whatnot, story of the world or whatever, a science experiment, and sharing that with the class. And so I'll help her prepare that as well. And then after lunch, I focus on the bigs. So in the morning, I tell my bigs, the subjects you are capable of doing by yourself, focus on those. If you come up with questions, write it down. And when I'm done with the littles, I will then come assist you. And so in the afternoon, I sit down for their trouble areas, any hard things for them, and we sit down together and walk through that. And we are able to be finished usually by about 2:00. If there's a debate coming up soon, my oldest challenge kid might go till almost 3, but then we are donezo for the day. Everybody's gotten the help from mom that they need, and we're able to play a lot. And then for my littles in the evening, we do a lot of reading books. I think that's really important, but it doesn't necessarily have to be during the school rush of the day that I do that. I allow them to play a ton. They learn a lot when playing, and we do a lot of reading at night during bath time and before bed. So that's kind of how I juggle my day. I'd love to hear how some of y'all juggle yours. Once you start getting those challenge kiddos in the house, it might look a little different. I used to juggle it very differently when all of my kids were foundations age and younger. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into the challenge level and juggling that with foundations. And just hear me when I say you really can do it, mamas, and you can see a lot of fruits from that. You can be not just doing it, but successfully. So as you finish this homeschool year, continue at home to CC with Moxie.